think we got to start with that men's 800. We had a big surprise. Reigning world champion, the American record holder, Donovan Brazier, does not qualify in the 800. He finishes 8th in the final. Clayton Murphy gets the win, makes another Olympic team. Isaiah Jewitt of USC pushed the pace and is rewarded with a second-place finish. And Bryce Hopple, who had a great season in 2019 and has been the number 2 to Brazier's number 1 these last couple of years, he gets third over Isaiah Harris. But the big story, obviously, the American record holder will not be in Tokyo.
Yeah, Donovan Brazier, he was in it with 200 meters to go, and then you could see it in his face in that final 150 to 100 meters to go. He just didn't have it to close in that final quarter of that race. And he said post race that he's been dealing with a little bit of an injury bug, but he said there was no excuse. He said, what I've been doing, I should have been able to still make this team without it, and it's disappointing. And it's disappointing for the world, right? You want to see the world champion at the Olympics. Luckily, he's only 24. This isn't the end of his prime. He still probably has another 4 years of prime Donovan Brazier, which should put him into at least Paris 2024. But man, you really wanted to see Donovan at these Olympic Games to see what he could do. And clearly he wasn't himself today. And that's what's crazy about these trials, man. Like, it is not a what have you done for me? It's what have you done for me lately? And lately being only one race, which is this 800 final. And I was just so surprised that, hey, even the best can fall short. Even the ones that you think are certainly locks. This trial says no one is a lock. You have to be able to do it on that day. And we saw that here in the men's 800.
Yeah, and you could just tell in the final, and I know we speculated after the first couple rounds because people were asking Brazier, are you fully healthy or not? And it's difficult when guys are jogging. It's difficult to tell, hey, was that 146 easy or was that 146 hard for you? But you could tell after about 500 meters in this race that Brazier was going to be fortunate to get top 3, just with the way everybody was moving. And with 300 to go, obviously that's where in Doha he made that huge move. So we're like, okay, we're not going to see that Brazier today, but will he have enough to get the top 3? And clearly he's dealing with something, and he didn't want to specify or go into it. He said with all the resources he has, with the strength and conditioning coach, with the resources of Nike, it's his job to be healthy. That's what he said. He took full responsibility for it, did not want to make any excuses. But this was not a tactical screw up. This wasn't a positioning error by Brazier. He just was not at full capacity when he needed to be. Obviously, if he was at his best, we've seen how fast he can run and how many times he run 144 low throughout his career. He was running that during the indoor season this past year. Outdoors, we hadn't seen it as much, which I think is what prompted some questions and concerns about him. And then you saw the result out there today and just didn't have it with 200 to go. He knew he didn't have it. He described his race as shitty. He also said, I know some people are interested in this, and you're interested, Gordon, as soon as the race ended, is he running the 1500? He just come back in the 1500. He said probably not. Because I think it's just a matter of fitness. Again, if he tripped and fell with 100 meters to go, or if he got boxed in and thought he could make it, but it was just an issue with tactics or bad luck, yeah, you come back in the 15. But I don't think we're seeing Brazier at his full capacity right now.
Yeah, it's a bummer, man. You just wish there was a way that all of our best athletes are all 100%, but which is the nature, like we said, of the trials. There's going to be people who are 80%, some people who are 110%. We just don't know until the day. And Clayton Murphy, he's the one who found a way to be 100% at the right moment. You look back on his regular season, there was a race where he ran 147 and finished dead last. I think it was in New York. And then he comes here and runs 143.17. That's an incredible mark for Murphy, especially when you look at his resume basically on the past year and a half. And he was holding on to something. He was waiting for this moment to put together his best race. And Murphy is back in he's giving me 2017, 18 Murphy vibes, 16, 17, 18 Murphy vibes of hey, I'm going to be the best in a final, and I can be tactical enough to be able to pull away, whether it's a medal in the 800, a medal in the 1500. Like the way he races, I could see Murphy winning the 1500 if he wanted to. I don't think he
Mhm.
will. I'm not sure if he's going to pull off the double, but maybe he does. Maybe he has all this uber confidence after winning 143.17.
Mhm.
But man, Murphy looked good. He looked like a seasoned vet. He looked like I'm a medal threat in Tokyo. That
He's a gold medal
143 was
threat.
definitely, yeah, gold medal threat. Sure. Yeah, with
Right.
no
I mean,
Donovan, who's
yeah.
there's no yeah, there's no David Rudisha anymore. So like, yeah, I mean,
Mhm.
Murphy you could argue is the gold medal favorite maybe right now.
Yeah, you could 100% make that argument. I think it's going to be one of those years where you get to the final and there's a wide open race for gold. But 143.17, that's the third fastest time in his career. Does it off of negative splits too, Gordon? 51.67 and then a 51.50. I mean, smart running, sound running, peaked at the perfect time. I think, you got to figure he's going to be able to continue this trajectory until he gets to Tokyo. Yeah, he's a chance to gold. I think saying you're a medal threat, I think is selling Murphy a little bit short. I mean, you could see that yearly list, right? Dobek of Poland, 143.73. Are we going to be surprised if Clayton Murphy beats Dobek or Oliver
Yeah.
Dustin of Great Britain or Elias Ngeni? No, he just beat Isaiah Jewitt, who ran the fifth fastest time in the world this year. This race, you're right. No Rudisha. Brazier was the guy who was filling that gap, looked like he was unstoppable. And my, how things change. In 2 years, Murphy was last in Doha. 2 years later, Murphy's winning the trials. Brazier's getting last. It's just a crazy, crazy turn of events. Let's give some credit, though, to Isaiah Jewitt, who got this pace going. Front runner, you said he had a shot. You said he had a shot, and he went for it from the gun. Would he hold on? And he did. And this wasn't a matter of people falling apart around him. I mean, the guy ran 143. He ran 143 on his own, 143.85. Just an impressive run for the NCAA champ to come back a week later and drop his PR again.
Yeah, I mean, it's just wild. Isaiah Jewitt's career. Obviously, he's I think a sixth year at USC. But like
Mm-hmm.
even in the past 2 weeks, Isaiah Jewitt couldn't even get an auto qualifier into the NCAA final. He had to get in on time because he finished third in his NCAA prelim to Shane Strike and Festus Legat. And now 10 or so days later, he's running 143, leading basically from the start all the way until maybe the final 20 meters when Murphy passed him. And
Mm-hmm.
the entire time I was watching a race, you were thinking, all right, Jewitt, man, is he in over his head? There's got to be a point when he falls apart
Yeah.
because you see all the guys behind him. You see Harris, you see Hopple, Murphy. You think those guys are clearly going to make the pass in that final 150, but no one caught him except for Murphy, who had to run 143 low, and he runs an incredible 143.8, huge PB. It's 3-second PB from his 2019 of 146. So,
Yeah.
Drew, man, if he's in it, this 800 team, these next few years, it's going to be hard to get because everyone is pretty young. Hopple's young. Obviously,
Mm-hmm.
Brazier's young. Murphy's still in his prime. Now you throw in Jewitt here. Isaiah Harris is still there. We could have, eventually it could be a 143 guy cannot make a world team. Like I can see that happening in 2022.
Yeah. And I thought going into this year, it's going to be an amazing trials race, but I thought it was going to be amazing for a completely different reason. I thought it was going to be a Hopple Brazier showdown. I thought it was going to take the American record to win the race. We were going to see two guys under 143. And that's why track and field is unpredictable and you can't really plan around it. Or maybe you should avoid planning around it because one guy doesn't make the team. And Hopple almost missed the team too. He gets third in this race. And Isaiah Harris was not too far behind him in fourth. But Hopple 144.14, not at his best still, but gets the job done and gets to advance to Tokyo, get his legs under him. We could be talking just as we're saying, man, the season changed for Jewitt when he got out of that prelim, or man, the season changed for Murphy in Eugene. The season could turn right here for Bryce Hopple. He could go from third at the trials to Olympic champion, right? He was 4th last year. Brazier's out of it. We just talked about how wide open it is. He beats Harris by a couple tenths. So you'd say, man, a couple tenths the other way, he's not even going to Tokyo. But now that he has the opportunity, you gave him that open door, that slightly open door. Hopple's running big in big moments time and time again. Now he's got time to go back, get right, and prepare for Tokyo. So he's a guy who can win gold too.
If I would have told you basically January 2021, who the best women's American distance athlete is and who the best men's distance athlete in America is, you probably would say it's Donovan Brazier and Shelby Houlihan. Mm-hmm. And now both of them are not going to be at the Olympics. It's just wild what can happen, obviously with injuries, with Shelby's situation, with doping, and, anything can happen in the trials. What you think about the field is never what happens, right? We all make our picks, our top 3 picks, and we think, oh yeah, it's going to be Brazier, Hopple, and then Murphy. And then, nope, it's Isaiah Jewitt. So it just shows why this sport's awesome, because what you think is going to happen rarely ever happens to form.
It's sports. This is what happens. But in ball sports, right, you catch a lucky bounce or an unlucky bounce doesn't go your way and totally changes the trajectory of a team and a narrative. And you think maybe running's a little bit more immune to that because they're running and the best person is always going to advance and it's going to set up perfectly. And you can look at the numbers and get a good forecast. But nobody's forecast going into the year had Brazier finishing 8th in the 800 at the trials. But it does have that same type of volatility that other sports do because humans are involved. And anytime you have that part, you're going to have some unpredictable outcomes. I guess horses are involved too, like in the Kentucky Derby, and the favorite doesn't win too. So I should just say, anytime you have anybody racing, anytime there's a being trying to get from one end to the other, there's no way to forecast it. Travis just sent us this note, Gordon. He says, when Murphy was winning an Olympic medal, Jewitt was running 154 back in 2016.
So
good stat.
Everyone, all you high schoolers out there, or college kids, or not high schoolers, or whatever, high schoolers, college kids who are running 154 right now.
Yeah.
Hey, 2024, you're going to be getting 2nd at the Olympic trials.
Mm-hmm.
That's how it works.
A lot of people in the chat are talking about Brazier's, coming back in the 1500. And I mean, that would be the ultimate story, but obviously he's not going to risk, if he is hurt, he's not going to risk further injury to do it. But my goodness, if he pops up on that start list for day one, will that be compelling? Because the talent is still there. And we talked last year in the pandemic season, he runs the 335, closing ridiculously fast. Brazier could make the team if he wanted to. Brazier could make the 1500 meter team. He's got that much talent, but it just doesn't look like it's in the cards for this year. So probably not going to see him in Tokyo at all, which is a huge surprise.
Hey, I still think Brazier's going to break the world record in his career. He's just saving it for 2022. That's what I think.
Yeah. Well, and he's got opportunities. You got 22 in Eugene. You got a 2023 World Championships, 24 Olympics, and then a 25 World Championships. So there's 4 in a row there. But this is just perfect evidence that you can plan it out. You can structure it. I thought Brazier was going to be the guy for the next several years. We had debated, is he going to win the next time he's going to lose to an American, let alone, not
the
make
entire
the team.
Field.
Yeah, and it's at the end he probably packed it in there over those last few meters. But I put this in air quotes because it's still tremendously hard. But all he had to do was run 144.13 to get that 3rd spot. And you think, in a bad day in the trials, he'll be able to pull out like a 144 low and be able to do it. But it wasn't there at all. And also feel rough for Harris to miss out. He's always in the mix. He's made one team in his career, similar a bit to Kidder, another Penn Stater there who finishes 5th in 145.08. But it's just brutal. It's a brutal event, and this